Hello guys. In this video, I will explain why the T-34 was the best tank designed during World War II, so let's begin.
The best performed used in World War II. Best planes used in World War II. Soviet General
But
Georgy
wait.
6M0.
Battle of
Tank
Anyway
has
has
also
Part
been
2
American.
The T-34 was the mainstay of Soviet Red Army armored forces throughout the war. Its general specifications remained nearly unchanged until early 1944, when it received a firepower upgrade with the introduction of the greatly improved T-34-85 variant. Its production method was continuously refined and rationalized to meet the needs of the Eastern Front, making the T-34 quicker and cheaper to produce. The Soviets ultimately built over 80,000 T-34s of all variants, allowing steadily greater numbers to be fielded despite the loss of tens of thousands in combat against the German Wehrmacht. Replacing many light and medium tanks in Red Army service, it was the most produced tank of the war, as well as the second most produced tank of all time, after its successor, the T-54-T-55 series, with 44,900 lost during the war. It also suffered the most tank losses ever. Its development led directly to the T-44, then the T-54 and T-55 series of tanks, which, in turn evolved into the later T-62, that form the armored core of many modern armies. T-34 variants were widely exported after World War II, and as recently as 2010 more than 130 were still in service. Both chassis were used as the foundation for a variety of support vehicles, such as armor recovery vehicles, tank destroyers, and self-propelled artillery. Both were an approximately even match for the standard German medium tank, the Panzer IV, though each of these three tanks had particular advantages and weaknesses compared with the other two. Neither the T-34 nor the M4 was a match for Germany's heavier tanks, the Panther technically a medium tank or the Tiger I. The Soviets used the IS-2 heavy tank and the US used the M26 Pershing as the heavy tanks of their forces instead. The heavily sloped armor design made the tank better protected and the armor thickness along would indicate. The shape also saved weight by reducing the thickness required to achieve equal protection. A few tanks also had applique armor of varying thickness welded onto the hull and turret. Tanks thus modified were called S-Economy, with screens. Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, its invasion of the Soviet Union, on June 22, 1941, at the start of hostilities. The Red Army had 967 T-34 tanks and 508 KV tanks, concentrated in 5 of their 29 mechanized corps. The existence of the T-34 and KV tanks proved a psychological shock to German soldiers, who had expected to face an inferior enemy. The T-34 was superior to any tank the Germans then had in service. The diary of Alfred Jodl seems to express surprise at the appearance of the T-34 in Riga. Initially, the Wehrmacht had great difficulty destroying T-34s in combat, as standard German anti-tank weaponry proved ineffective against its heavy, sloped armor. In one of the first known encounters, a T-34 crushed a 37mm Pak-36, destroyed 2 Panzer IIs, and left a 14-kilometer 7 miles long swathe of destruction in its wake before a howitzer destroyed it at close range. In another incident, a single Soviet T-34 was hit more than 30 times by a battalion-sized contingent of German 37mm and 50mm anti-tank guns, yet survived intact and drove back to its own lines a few hours later. The inability to penetrate the T-34's armor led to the German standard anti-tank gun, the 37mm Pak-36, being dubbed the Panzerankopfgerät, tank door knocker, because the Pak-36 crew simply revealed their presence and wasted their shells without damaging the T-34's armor. Anti-tank gunners began aiming at tank tracks, or vulnerable margins on the turret ring and gun mantlet, rather than the bow and turret armor. The Germans were forced to deploy 105mm field guns and 88mm anti-aircraft guns in a direct fire role to stop them. Okay guys, that's all I got for today. Please consider subscribing. Bye.